To today's joint MHRA and NICE webinar, Aligned Decisions, Faster Patient Access. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You have joined the presentation listening using your computer speaker system by default. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions via Slido at www.slido.com using the event code Aligned Decisions 25. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation, and we will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Please note that we will not be accepting questions via the GoToWebinar chat function. It is now my pleasure to introduce your first speakers. Julian Beach, Executive Director of Healthcare Quality and Access from MHRA, and Helen Knight, Director of Medicines Evaluation at NICE.
Hi, thanks very much, Trudy, and welcome everyone and good afternoon, and thanks for joining today's session where we're hoping to talk through to you our approach for an aligned MHRA and NICE pathway. So can we go to the next slide, please, Trudy? So to start with, why are we here? So as many of you know, already the MHRA and NICE works very closely together to deliver important medicines to patients in England and broadly across the UK. So building on this, the UK government has set a very bold ambition to streamline regulation and market access so that patients can benefit sooner to cutting-edge innovation. So really what's driving and what's at the heart of this ambition is a transformative collaboration between both of our agencies, organisations, to really take this forward. So in March 2025, the government reaffirmed its commitment to improving alignments between our organisations, and these were specified and laid out in the Fit for the Future 10-year plan and the Life Sciences Sector Plan published earlier this year. So next slide. So what's our ambition with this work? Well, we really want to deliver something that can accelerate access to medicines, and we're aiming for 3 to 6 months for patients in the NHS. So we're going to do that through a number of different work streams. So the first being trying to bring closely both the NICE decisions to be parallel with the MHRA so that there's no gap. We already aim to work to deliver guidance to the NHS as close to a medicines marketing authorisation, but we know that we can do better. And so this initiative is very much around aiming to publish decisions from both of our organisations at the same time. Julian, do you want to pick up on the scientific advice?
No, thank you. And it's a great pleasure that we have all of your engagement with this topic. So really looking to develop on that. It's with integrated scientific advice, it's how do we support all the different medicinal product types, from new actives and the other biosimilars and others, to then see how we can ensure that we bring through new and effective therapies quicker for patients in that 3 to 6 month horizon. Obviously, as we go through, we are learning in how we work together and how we bring the system together. And as illustrated in the 10-year plan and the science strategy, we've got to be working in collaboration with our other system partners, including NHS, to ultimately bring this across all 4 nations to fruition much quicker. So we obviously always welcome feedback, and we always welcome that we haven't got everything exactly taped right at the first knockings. So what we are looking is, as part of this, is what question, well, the question, but what features do you most want to see in this offer? So it could be that you want to see something novel, you want to see alignment, you want to see joined up thinking, you want to see something on endpoints, or you want to see something on how do we define different criteria between the 2 agencies. And I suppose really we're going to go into a Slido for that now, and really just to see what your initial response to that is. And then we will see how we best address those initial expectations. If you thought you were just going to be sitting here for a few minutes without having to interact and just listen to Helen and myself witter for a few minutes, unfortunately, that's wrong. So please, the Slido should be coming up onto the screen now. And then we really would like to know and see how we hit the mark with this to make sure that we've got. So coming up, what features would you like to see in this offer?
Julian, just whilst that's initially coming in, I think from our perspective, obviously that reducing, or that quicker access to medicines for patients is a key priority as part of this work. But for all of us, I think it's not just about speed; it's about clarity for industry, for companies, for all stakeholders. It's about being efficient, and it's about building trust as well. So I think be interesting to see whether any of those elements that are important to us as in this work actually come up on the Slido.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it is really just looking at how do we learn, how do we continually improve. And as you come in, I can see confidentiality coming up on there. And what I can assure you right now, and you'll be hearing later on, is independency of decision. By having alignment, we're not going to be looking to change our processes. We're looking to be reordering them to enable us to achieve what we need to. So there will be different concerns, which we will go through at a Q&A at the end of this. So you will be able to ask those questions which may come up as concern. But really what we're looking to try and do is, red tape, remove duplication. So just on the remove duplication, we will be still requiring 2 submissions, one to each body. But it's really looking to ensure that when we do it, in terms of how do we have information sharing and how do we have those other criteria, how we use things like PharmaScan in our long-term view, that really comes back to it. But transparency, clarity and transparency and consistency seems to be the biggest ones coming out of this.
Yeah,
but
and of course,
they're
terms that we're all very used to, I think.
Yeah, and I think efficiency and alignment to make sure that we do this. So without stealing any more thunder, I think lots of the points on there we will address within the webinar. And if we haven't, what I would really encourage you to do is prepare on the same Slido link to then look at what questions would you like if they haven't been answered. And bear in mind what I'd just also like to put as we go into the agenda. So if it's not changing that much now, I think it's not. So if we put up the agenda slide, as you see here, how do we engage with our system partners? How do we then align with our regulatory and health technology assessment? And so then underpinning that is how do we have that integrated scientific advice that I was referring to all product types, looking to see how we can see that. But obviously what we are looking at here is an opt-in offering. It's not something which is mandatory, but what we want to see is something which is demonstrating value to everybody, but especially the patients, bringing these medicines earlier to everybody. So we'll go through a bit of the benefits, the next steps, and then the questions and answers. So really would like to welcome everybody here and an active, engaging session, hopefully. And Helen, any final comments?
No, just looking forward to hearing more and hearing the feedback from stakeholders. You say we've spent a good bit of time. The teams have really worked in a brilliantly collaborative way, and hopefully we've laid out clearly what our hope is to achieve. What we want to achieve and how we're going to deliver on that, and really looking to hear some feedback if that will hit the mark to what people are expecting.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I will hand over. So as you can see on the screen, my name isn't Stephen Maddox, but I will hand over, as it's Stephen's laptop, to Stephen to then carry on. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Julian, and thank you, Helen. So we're moving on to essentially how, when and why to engage early with the UK health system partners. And before we go into the next slide, I just want to impress that throughout all of this working, even with MHRA and NICE owning these actions, we will be working with our UK health system partners. We've already started discussions with the Scottish Medicines Consortium, and we have spoken at a UK cross-agency meeting. So that's just to allay some of the sounds before they come. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So as we've been engaging with our UK health system partners, we really want to impress, and this is a theme you will hear throughout this conversation, we want to impress the importance of engaging with us early, particularly when there are innovative medicines, innovative products out there that are coming to market that may challenge the NHS, challenge care pathways, and challenge the human medicines regulations. We want to know about it so we can respond in time. What we have seen, and I've actively reached out to a few contacts in industry where we've had this early engagement, is that the positive feeling that we get from these meetings and the positive feeling that we leave industry from engaging with us is clear. We've got words up there like collaborative, high value, and enabling true innovation. And ultimately, and it's really great to see that this came directly from an industry partner, is helping to accelerate patient access. And that is the end goal at the end of the day. And another little nugget of information is there's a paper that's linked to the bottom of this slide, which we can circulate a link to later. But we know that products benefiting from scientific advice will get guidance publication sooner, and that's absolutely key. It's been proven. And if we can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the main way of engaging with us early, and please do use this QR code, which will link directly to UK PharmScan. And UK PharmScan is our primary source of pipeline data for new innovative products and now biosimilars and vaccines. This is it's a NICE owned system, but the data, when is inputted by industry, it's owned by industry, and the updates that you need are driven by industry. What this really does, it's used right across the Horizon scanning system and helps to ensure UK system readiness, along with the suite of other technologies and meetings that the industry can have and can use with NICE. We also recognise the pure value of the soft engagements that we have with our industry partners as well. We have been really pushing pipeline meetings for the last, I think, 2 years since I've come in to this role, and we've seen the value of these right up to global level. We've started in 2025 to pilot a joint pipeline meeting between ourselves and NICE. We've done 3 of these. Each of them look different as we co-develop and evolve our service. And we've got 3 to come. And we are committed, as with these the latest government commitments, we are committed to carrying this on past the pilot after we've learned everything. And they will constantly evolve. We know industry work in different ways. We know that some teams are more siloed in their regulatory and market access teams. We know that some work together on a daily basis. So we will cater these to all our different audiences of different sizes. And with that, I think we can move on now to the next section, which Jenna will present. Jenna.
Thank you, Stephen. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jenna Delks, and I'm an Associate Director for Planning and Operations within Medicines Evaluation, and also I've been the lead for this piece of work within NICE. Now, the Aligned Pathway is a collaborative framework between the MHRA and NICE designed to achieve that same time publication, but whilst maintaining our independent processes. And I'm going to talk you through what that looks like, what needs to change to enable this to happen, and what we will need from our industry partners as well. So next slide, please. So in introducing the aligned pathway, there are some key areas that we wanted to focus on. And they are, of course, achieving same time decision. What do we need to do that? How do we make our processes parallel? And what do we have to change to allow that to happen? The collaborative working across the two organisations. Of course, we keep saying that word a lot, and you'll hear it a lot from us, collaborative, but it's not just about how we work together day to day as two separate organisations, but it's also about how we share operational information. So how we can stay engaged and up to date on what's happening with the topics as they progress through the two organisations, and ensure we're taking the right decisions based on the most up-to-date information. We want to improve transparency for our stakeholders on when they can see progression through a NICE evaluation in relation to a marketing authorisation, and remove sometimes the uncertainty that sits there when they don't see a NICE guidance after marketing authorisation. And throughout all of it, we're maintaining independence. So NICE and the MHRA are two separate organisations still. We maintain distinct processes with separate decisions at the end of the day. Next slide, please. So that biggie, that achieving that same time decision, how do we achieve that? This requires NICE scheduling process changes internally. We've been looking over the past few months at making sure this is able to happen from today, the 1st of October. So previously, NICE would schedule our the evaluations of the topics that come through to us based on marketing authorisation being at the same time as the appraisal committee meeting. We'd receive information through horizon scanning and topic selection direct from our industry stakeholders on their expected marketing authorisation, and we would align that date with the appraisal committee meeting and work backwards from there. To achieve same time publication, of course, we have to align the marketing authorisation with the TA final guidance, that TA guidance at the end. And that means, naturally, that the NICE appraisal committee meeting, NICE draft and final draft guidance needs to occur before marketing authorisation is received. We have created comms and really transparent comms to go alongside the appraisal committee meeting and the draft and final draft guidance, which makes it really clear that any discussions and anything published ahead of marketing authorisation is dependent on the granting of that MHRA marketing authorisation. The other commitment that NICE have made is that we will agree to priority scheduling for topics that are following the aligned pathway. So if you have been offered timelines that allow for same-time publication and you've accepted those, you will receive priority scheduling for your appraisal committee meeting slots. Next slide, please. So as I said, from the 1st of October, all topics that come through to NICE at that topic selection stage and are being handed to our scheduling team to be scheduled onto our work programme have the ability to be scheduled onto the aligned pathway. And it's open to all topics. There is no criteria, but there are requirements that you have to meet to be able to meet the aligned pathway timings. We've talked before, Stephen was talking really clearly about how we use PharmaScan and the data within there, but we need to make sure we're seeing that PharmaScan registration 3 years prior to expected marketing authorisation. And we need to make sure that the records within PharmaScan are kept up to date, so that NICE and the MHRA are receiving that up-to-date information to manage their work programme on the topics that are coming through. And also we need acceptance and adherence to the timelines that are offered by NICE. So those optimal timelines that will achieve same time publication. And the submission to NICE for an optimal topic does happen prior to MHRA submission. NICE distinguishes between the optimal and divergent topics, very much based on the company's submission date preferences. So an optimal topic is one that will now achieve same time publication as marketing authorisation, and a divergent topic is one where a company or stakeholder, industry stakeholder has requested a later submission date and therefore it cannot achieve that same time publication. Next slide, please. So, as I said, it's open to all topics, provided you can meet the requirements, but we recognise that not every single topic will be able to run across the aligned pathway. And there is some terminology and the way we deal with these topics. I want to be really clear what this means. So there may be a small number of topics that are scheduled to the aligned pathway at the beginning of its lifespan through NICE. However, as they progress through NICE and the MHRA, we will have identified that the topic is too complex and it's not appropriate for it to go to a public committee meeting before the marketing authorization is granted. Now, NICE and the MHRA will stay in close contact about this, and we will provide very clear comms to our stakeholders on when this is the case and what the alternate scheduling will then be, which will of course be a committee meeting that is after that marketing authorization date. As previously stated, the divergent topics are those where the companies have requested a later submission date. But a difference here is that if that later submission date puts the start of the NICE evaluation after the marketing authorization, then NICE will publish a deferral. Now, that deferral won't publish until the marketing authorization has been granted, and it will be very clear in the wording when the topic is expected to restart. We want to provide clarity and transparency, coming back to those words from before, for our stakeholders. We recognise that when a topic hasn't published at the same time as marketing authorization, there can sometimes be uncertainty as to when patients in the public and all our stakeholders can expect to see that NICE guidance. And we want to ensure that fewer topics remain uncertain or unaddressed post-marketing authorization. So just to summarise, 3 key things from me. We are working together very closely as 2 organisations on that operational information sharing and the way we stay up to date on topic progression. We are changing scheduling processes internally at NICE to allow for appraisal committee meetings and draft and final guidance before marketing authorization. And we are introducing a deferral publication to remove uncertainty on topics that have not progressed after a marketing authorization. And with that, I am going to hand over to my colleague Faye, who is going to talk about the integrated advice service.
Thank you very much, Jenna. And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Faye McCracken, Associate Director for NICE Advice Services, and I'm the lead at NICE for this particular strand of work. Next slide, please. Thank you. So let's take a look at some of the upcoming changes to our scientific advice offering. We're going to be moving away from the existing joint MHRA and NICE advice service, which some of you may be familiar with, and will know that it had separate entry points, separate charging mechanisms, and separate reports that were delivered in parallel with each other. What we're looking to try and do is to introduce a refreshed and fully integrated service. So this will feature a single entry point by a gov.uk online request form, which will make it much easier for users to access and navigate the service. There will also be a single integrated advice report. So the NICE and MHRA teams will be working much more closely together, having much more dialogue to produce combined insights in one cohesive advice report. And there'll be a single payment process, which aims to simplify the administrative side of things as well. So these changes are designed to deliver real value to our users. And by deepening collaboration between NICE and MHRA, we're aiming to boost confidence and clarity around evidence requirements from both organisations. So playing to those points in the word cloud around clarity and transparency. It also helps to avoid unforeseen delays and increase the ability to achieve aligned decisions that Jenna's described. And ultimately, it's there to provide a smoother and more coordinated experience for users using the service. In terms of timeframes, we've done some initial engagement with industry, and development of the integrated service is already underway and will continue through to December. We're aiming for a proof of concept launch of the gov.uk request form and the associated workflows in January 2026. And that will be for use by a small number of early adopters. And then full rollout of the service is planned for April 2026. We'll of course continue to engage with stakeholders through this process to ensure that the service meets user needs and delivers meaningful improvements as well. And there'll be some information at the end of the webinar about how you can engage with us further if you're interested to do so. So thank you, and I think I'm passing back over to Stephen.
Thank you, Faye, and thank you, Jenna. So obviously we asked for some of what you wanted to see at the start of the webinar, but we've developed, and this is a working proposal, but we've developed what we believe are some of the key benefits for users, and would like to test these with you before we move on further. So if you can go on to the next slide for me. Thank you. So obviously, we, as the UK healthcare system, primarily we work for patients. So one of the key benefits for users is the clarity around when a press release goes out about a new innovative medicine to treat diseases that maybe don't have remedies yet. As soon as that goes out, there is a patient expectation that they can get it the next day. Whereas we know that the NICE guidance may not have been produced yet. And the idea is to bring those closer so that our patients can have clarity about what they can get. Second, we, as Julian mentioned previously, we are working closely with the NHS on delivering of this. Obviously, industry can notify a NHS on UK PharmaScan. There are many different options with the NICE advice service for system readiness meetings, but all of it is to ensure that if we get an aligned pathway, that it is available on the NHS as soon as possible. And obviously, for industry, earlier decisions mean stronger signal of approvals. And what this is generally referring to is the global market. We know that the MHRA and NICE, their decisions are being looked at globally, and we want to enhance that clarity for those decision makers right across the world. It's also clear that, I mean, if you bring a new medicine to patients 3 to 6 months earlier, you get additional commercial benefits of this through sales straight after marketing authorization, or as close to marketing authorization as possible. And the integrated advice service, which we really see as a supporter to this aligned pathway. We believe that if you are designing your pivotal trials around both MA and HTA, so Health Technology Assessment Marketing Authorization, then expectations, then this should support smoother approval, should support less questions that you may get. And then, yeah, the enhanced reputation bit, if you can get products to patients as quick as possible, then it gives that clarity to the patients, which is absolutely vital. So hopefully this has spelled out a few of what we believe are the advantages, but again, we would like to challenge these. So I think we're going, if we go to the next slide, we'll be going back to Slido. So for the next question. So question is, which potential benefits, and there's going to be a list for you to get, which potential benefits matter most to you? And I think this is a multiple choice. So you can mark multiple of these. And while this is going, this list was created, I believe this list was created by us hearing from industry. We've spoken to groups at the ABPI, so the Association for British Pharmaceutical Industry. We've spoken to groups at the Bioindustry Association, and we're speaking to our devolved governments, and these have all come out of those discussions. Is it open? Okay, it should now be open and ready for you. Apologies. Never happened. There we go. Brilliant. It's good to see this coming through. Smoother pathway to market. That is quite overwhelming. Excellent. I'm glad it's true somehow that the global markets message is coming across. That's really good to see. Well, I think we've got a very good picture there. There's still a few movements, but I don't think we will take up too much time. But if we can move to our next question, it's great that smoother pathway to market, providing early signals. Other is 2%, and what we'll do is try and engage more with you to figure out what those others are and that we can really maximize our benefit. If we can move to the next question. Thank you. So this one is obviously there are going to be barriers to joining services. We know some of these. So what are the barriers that might prevent you from using these services? And these again have been built from conversations that we've had with industry. Other is quite high on this one. Okay. All right, I think there's not much more movement on this one. So unable to submit early tonight. I mean, Jenna, do you want to maybe talk about that one a little bit before we go into the next steps?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, isn't it? I think obviously we have predicted some of these to be able to provide you with a poll and some of the things that we already know about through discussing with our industry colleagues. And it's also I'm very interested as well in that other and wanting to dig a bit further in finding out more information from our stakeholders on what those barriers might be. We're going to hear about some of that actually in the very next slide. So if we can close down slide out and move on, that would be wonderful. Thank you. So you'll be happy to know that we haven't just asked you all those questions for fun. We recognise that everything that we've been talking about so far has very much been about internal changes within NICE and the MHRA, our ways of working, our processes in enabling this to happen. But actually, any success is only going to be gained through collaboration with our stakeholders. And that's what comes next. We have to have some active engagement with yourselves to enable this to work, really. And those barriers, what are they? Let's identify them and help address them. And hopefully there's things we can do to help encourage addressing that and help encourage participation in that aligned pathway. So next slide, please. We are asking you to get in touch. So how are we going to do this? So first thing that I want to talk about is we have said that the aligned pathway is now open from the 1st of October. And that's for all new topics that come through to the NICE scheduling programme. But we recognise that there are topics already scheduled. We know our schedule runs, we have topics already scheduled in to start in 2027. It goes that, that far in advance. We won't be looking back proactively into every topic that's already scheduled. But if you're sat there as an industry stakeholder and you think, actually, I have a topic here, I've been provided timelines, I've accepted them, but I think we could be earlier, I could think we could work on this aligned pathway, get in touch with NICE. Get in touch with the NICE scheduling team. We will look at your topic, we will look at the timelines, and we will see if we can pull you onto the aligned pathway. So please ask one, please reach out to NICE if you want us to look at the rescheduling of your topic. Second ask, we are sending out a post-event survey. Now, this isn't just how did you find the webinar, you know, did you like the way the slides moved? This is a really important survey, so we really want you to engage with this, because based on the feedback we get today at the webinar and the questions that we've asked, based on the feedback we get within the survey and the additional information that you provide us, we'll be then building our further engagement. And that could be focus groups, surveys, interview-based research, whatever is appropriate based on what we see in this initial survey. And we will be reaching out to our stakeholders between now and the end of April 2026 to engage. And beyond, I'm sure, because very much this is not finished. This has been step one of new ways of working, collaborative working relationship between NICE and the MHRA, which is so important. But there's so much more we recognise that we can do, and we want this to be iterative, and we want this to be collaborative with our stakeholders as well. So I don't know if I can push any much more. Please engage, please speak to us, and we will be reaching out to you in return. We hope this was really useful and informative, and that you got everything you needed on this. But a reminder, for that survey that's winging its way to you, please do engage. We really want you on board, and we'll be using that to inform our next engagements as well. And also to let everybody know that if you have signed up for this webinar, you will receive a link in a few weeks with the access to the recording and a accessible version of this webinar as well.
Thank
you, everybody.